Meanwhile, in New York, Trump was doing this second defamation case for E. Jean Carroll. All right. So just a reminder, E. Jean Carroll he sexually assaulted her at a department store back in the 90s. Um, she didn't report it back then. Back then, that was, a lot of women didn't report. Even today, a lot of women don't report because it's pretty traumatic. And anyway, she didn't report it. She told her friends about it, her therapist, and all that, and they all testified. So the first case went up. The jury found, yeah, he did rape her. They call it sexual assault in federal. It's called sexual assault, but it's rape. It's penetration by force.
Right.
And she won that case because he then later talked shit about her and defamed her. So she won that. So determined that he raped her, determined that he defamed her. She won several $1 million, whatever it was. Wasn't a huge judgment. It was a pretty sizable amount. I mean, several $1 million is a sizable amount of money. Mm-hmm. So she wins that. Right after that, he goes on Truth Social, talks shit about her again, defames her. She's getting more death threats. He goes on Fox News, talks shit about her, and she's a liar. She gets more death threats. So she sues him a second time for defamation because it's now a whole new act of defamation. It's a whole new, civil claim. So that case was going on this week and did not work out well for Trump. He lost that one because they started out, the judge had to explain to the jury, he's already been found that he raped her. And it's already been found that he's defamed her in the past. Now we're just, and he's like, we're not really even arguing about whether or not they defamed her this time. He did. It's on television. It's on Truth Social. It's public. Right? So really, we're just...
He never learns. Like, you would think at some point, he'd be like, opening my mouth publicly is expensive.
I think he just let it drop. But this is all figure it out. But this is all part of his presidential campaign too. His whole thing is, I'm the victim, vote for me. And people are buying it. I'm like, it shocks me. I'm like, if I had a president, if you had somebody come to you, give me a job because I'm a victim, you'd be like, really? Why would I give you a job because you're a victim? Right? That doesn't seem
right. And furthermore, it might make me go, well, if people like to do all these horrible things for you, I'm not sure if I want you working for me and bringing that black cloud around here. Like,
and furthermore,
I mean, even if I believed them, I don't know if I would want their, whatever that was about being like.
Well, and furthermore, if you come out of the gate and you're using the victim card all the time, well, why would I think that's ever going to change?
Right.
And then eventually I'm going to be the one that you're blaming and saying is victimizing you. I mean, that's eventually going to happen. So, but that's always how it is with these narcissists. Anyway, so the trial proceeds. Alina Habba had a really tough time in court, and we're going to go ahead and start with her. So Alina Habba was his attorney. She's also the one that forgot to check the "we want a jury" request form. Check the box. She has almost no trial experience, and it showed. But we'll watch a little bit, and I'll give you some more of the highlights. So this is the Midas Touch Network. That's E. Jean Carroll leaving the courthouse.
Ms. Carroll, would you like to comment on today's proceedings?
So day 2 of trial in the E. Jean Carroll defamation case against Donald Trump just concluded. The case is being tried in federal court in Manhattan, the Southern District of New York. You saw E. Jean Carroll there leaving the courthouse. There were numerous instances today where both Alina Habba and Donald Trump were admonished by federal Judge Kaplan. It started very early in the day where Alina Habba requested an adjournment of the proceedings. Judge Kaplan denied that. And what became very clear is Alina Habba has no clue how to do the basics of trying a case.
So we'll get into this a little bit. This is Ben Mysalis. We're going to use the Midas Touch a little bit on this because they're all attorneys over there. So they understand the legal stuff. They've been reporting on this up to the minute. So, case starts, right? first thing Alina Habba does is say, "Can we adjourn the trial? Basically, postpone it." And of course, the judge is like, "No, denied. We're already here. It's been set. This is it. This is the date. You couldn't ask for this 2 weeks ago or a month ago when you got the court date." So that's how she opened. Okay, so that's how she opens with the day. Yeah, but it's just it got way worse from there. We'll cover this some more, but I just think that's hilarious. Can we postpone this? I don't want to do it today.
God, what a
I
bunch
don't
of
believe
whiny
she's
little
ever done
people.
a trial
I
in
know, it's so pathetic.
federal court before.
It is so
On
pathetic.
numerous occasions,
Okay, let's watch this.
Judge Kaplan was saying to her, "You have to follow the rules. If you want to introduce evidence, you have to show it to the witness. You have to ask the witness if she recognizes the document. You then have to ask that it be admitted, and then you can request that it be published before the jury. You can't just start blurting out things in my courtroom, Ms. Habba." And so testimony today was taken of E. Jean Carroll. The direct testimony and the questions being asked by E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, Sean Crowley, were on point. Crowley's a pro, and E. Jean Carroll handled herself powerfully during direct examination. Honestly, emotionally, it was heartwarming to hear the strength of E. Jean Carroll. Then Alina Habba went, "Let me just give you some of the lowlights, and then let's just go through this together of what went down," including where Donald Trump made a comment to the judge like, "Well, why don't you just kick me out, Judge? You can kick me out." And Judge Kaplan's like, "I'm sure that's what you want me to do, and it's unclear to me why you are just physically incapable of controlling yourself in circumstances like this." Oh, and then after the proceedings ended today, before the jury even exited the room, normally the parties stand up, they wait for the jurors to leave, and then the parties walk out. As soon as the proceedings end, Donald Trump cut off the jury, like boxed them away, and then walked out first, which is just unheard of. And so
these are the 12 people that are going to be deciding how much money I owe. So instead of standing up and waiting for them to leave, which is the normal thing, I'm just going to cut them off and be a dick.
I'm assuming he's just lashing out in anger. He's being angry, all of that. But
no, but he needs to control himself.
Who the hell he needs to control himself, and he needs to stop and think, who the hell is he to be angry about all of this? He literally is causing it all himself.
Right.
So first of all, nobody wants to be known for being raped.
No.
And this has already been like a huge public thing, for this person that they've had to endure. And then he goes and does all this, defamation stuff on top of it.
Well, she's got death threats. She's got security that 24/7 because she gets thousands of death threats, right? She carries a gun on her at all times. I mean, this woman's whole life has been up. I mean, she lives out in the middle of nowhere because it's easier to protect.
Right.
Her whole life has been destroyed and upended because of this shit.
Well, and you know what? Quite frankly, I think she deserves every bit of money that comes to her because she has had all of these threats. Even if you subtract all of the literal, threats to her own personal safety, just being known as a person that was raped by Donald Trump, and then he's got to go smearing you more on top of that. You already don't want to be known for that. And then he has to go running his mouth about you on top of it,
Yeah. Well,
he wants to play the victim here, but
it's actually a little different.
Who's the victim?
It's actually a little different. You think she's actually a fairly successful journalist, so she doesn't care about the money. This is about getting him to stop. talking shit about her
Well, I mean,
and making her a target.
I'm sure it's more the point.
Yeah. Well, that's
It's,
that was how they.
a lot of this stuff is more of a point than anything else.
Yeah, she doesn't care if she gets paid. And in fact, she might get some of the money, but she's probably not going to get all of it. She might get all of it. You never know. But the whole deal was when they started the case, her attorney got up there and he said, "Look, we don't care about the money. What we care about is what's going to make him stop doing this." Right? And this is the situation. She lives in a secure location with armed guards. She's armed. She's getting hundreds of death threats, thousands of death threats a day from his followers, and he still won't stop talking about her. Right? So what we're asking is you got to figure from a self-proclaimed billionaire, right? What amount of money will make him stop? That's all we're asking. So that was the whole situation of the case. So Alina Habba comes in, asks for adjournment. Judge has to deny her and admonish her. This is stupid. Then she starts trying to produce evidence that hasn't been disclosed, which you can't do. So she's trying to say, hey, this is the evidence, da-da-da, did you say all this? And the judge is like, wait, stop. You have to first show the document to the witness, which in this case was E Jean Carroll. Ask her, hey, do you recognize this? Then you give it to me and say, Judge, I'd like to submit this as evidence. Right? So he kept having to explain that to her several times. And then finally she did it. She asked E Jean Carroll, do you recognize this? And E Jean's like, yeah. She's like, Your Honor, may I submit this as evidence? The judge takes a look at it. He's like, there's no numbers on this. There's usually an exhibit number.
Right, like a little sticker or something with a number or like a tag on it or something.
Yeah, and there's usually
right?
Yeah, there's usually an admission where it's like, oh, I admitted this into evidence so that the other attorney could see it. It's called disclosure. The other attorney gets to see evidence that you put in, unless you're trying to impeach somebody, right? But the judge at least gets to see all the evidence and approve it before it gets admitted, right? She's trying to admit shit out of nowhere. She didn't follow any of the steps, and he kept having to admonish her for it and take recesses. He's like, Ms. Habba, we're going to take a recess. You come back, refresh your memory on how to submit evidence, and then you can come back into the courtroom and try again. And he's doing this in front of the jury. And it's humiliating, right? So she doesn't even know she doesn't even know the basics.
This is so stupid. I mean, I don't know all of that. I'm also not an attorney, and I'm not trying to be a trial attorney.
Right.
But if you are representing somebody and you are actually going to a trial, I think that you need to know the rules of how you are supposed to do certain things, like, put your evidence in.
Well, if you've ever seen Law and Order, or if you've ever seen a TV show where there's a trial, and the attorney goes up and says, do you recognize this document?
They always say that.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to submit this in evidence as Exhibit C.
Do you recognize the handwriting on this letter? We'd like to admit this letter as...
Yeah, and the judge says,
the
judge will usually say, yeah, sustained or denied or whatever, right? Depends on the evidence. But it's like, then they start questioning the witness about the evidence. You don't just start questioning the witness about the evidence. It has to be approved. Because otherwise I could bring any bullshit into the courtroom. Miss Carroll, did you read this Garfield comic? I mean, it's bullshit. So that whole thing went on. Then it got really bad because this last week, they settled this whole thing on Thursday. But at the beginning of the week, Alina Habba told the judge she was sick and asked for a delay in the court case. And this gets interesting because this is really funny. So this is Ben again. He's going to cover this part because this is crazy.
Coming out about Donald Trump's lawyer Alina Habba's deceit to federal judge Lewis Kaplan in connection with the E Jean Carroll federal defamation trial against Donald Trump, which resumes today on Thursday. Now, my colleague Michael Popak previously...
So the joke is, she tells the judge, I'm sick. asked for postponement. The judge says, fine, we can all meet up on Thursday, right? Well, going forward, this was so funny to me. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit. This is what happens Monday. A day, like 2 days after she asked the judge for this delay. This is Monday. She said she had COVID. This is how she got out of going to court for the Monday through Wednesday.
And said to a Capitol police officer, quote, if you are a police officer and you are going to abide by unconstitutional bullshit, I once said to the Capitol police officers on January 6th during the insurrection. But here's the thing. He posted a photo of himself from New Hampshire with Alina Habba. So he posts this photo. He's not even then sure because she's a MAGA influencer.
So this is Monday. This is like a day or two after she told the judge she had COVID. She's in New Hampshire during the primary, taking photos, walking around without a mask in the crowd. Looking fine. She didn't look sick at all. So she lied to postpone court so they could go to New Hampshire. So I mean, it just gets worse and worse. So
like these people. I mean,
oh, she's a scumbag. She's looking at she's in trouble right now. She's looking at losing her bar license because there was a woman that worked at Mar-a-Lago who was, I guess, sexually assaulted or harassed by one of the managers there, and she was going to sue Mar-a-Lago right for trying to cover it up. The Trump organization, and Alina Habba became her friend and then told her she'd represent her, and then talked her into taking this bullshit deal where she had to sign a non-disclosure agreement about it. And then after the woman signed it, Alina Habba ghosted her, and it turned out Habba was doing this for Trump the whole time, trying to get his good graces to be his lawyer. So she pretended to represent this woman while she was representing Trump. So right now, they're arguing about whether or not they're going to yank her bar license. And she'll be able to practice law ever again. So that case is going on right now, too. I mean, she is a total screw-up.
Okay, and let's just throw it out there. She's a New York lawyer, right?
New York and
Is she
Florida.
A New York lawyer?
New York and Florida, I think, yeah.
So I'm going to venture to say, and now I'm maybe being a New Yorker that's being a little stuck on New York here, but I'm just going to say this. If New York yanks your license,
oh yeah,
I mean, how's that going to look? You go trying to get yourself licensed in other states, and they're going to take a look at you and be like, New York yanked your license? Like, are you even going to be able to get a license anywhere else?
No.
You know, I mean, I don't know how this process exactly works for the licensing. I know you have to pass bars in different states and all of that jazz, but I mean, it's huge.
It doesn't.
Huge.
It doesn't matter which state yanks your license. All the states will yank your license at that point.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, honestly, I mean, let's say you're licensed in Florida and New York, and Florida yanks your license for improper behavior. Well, do you think New York's going to be like, oh, well, we're okay with that? No, they're gonna take that case from Florida, and they're gonna make
review as well,
and they're gonna make a ruling on it pretty quick. They're not gonna sit by.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So anyway, I'm gonna skip a little bit of this, but so she goes into closing arguments, and her big closing argument was E Jean Carroll should be grateful that she got raped by Trump because now she's more famous.
I'm sorry. I think I would just rather not get raped.
Yep.
I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah. So we're gonna do this. This was kind of.
I gotta repeat myself. I'm gonna venture to guess. Pretty much no woman wants to be famous for being raped.
No, nobody wants to be famous for that.
Nobody in their right mind wants to be famous for being raped.
Nope. But
you want to be famous because you did something interesting, right? Or achieved something or whatever. Not for that. That's the most ass cat thing to say.
It's
I made you famous by raping them.
yeah, it's she's trying to victim shame and shit. And then she was trying in her closing to say he didn't rape her and all this stuff. And the judge is like, no, you can't say that. You have to disregard, jury, you have to disregard everything she just said because we've already determined it happened. It's already been determined. It's not up for debate. It's not up for discussion. So we're going to do this one pill.